Hello, my name is Jörg and welcome to coachRED. In this video I will update a task in the app. I will use the Edit Item page to update the task. To update a to-do, I receive parameters into the page. So I head over to the Variables section to define my page parameters. What parameters do I need? Certainly the task, so let's add that. And the done field. I'm not doing anything with the done field, but to update the record, I simply need the value. There's no parameter type boolean or yes, no, but no sweat, I just use the text. Next, I define a parameter called mode, which I use to tell the page to either update or create a to-do. The last parameter is called name and will contain the relative path to this very record. Firebase graciously provides this to us and it will come handy once we update the record. Page parameters are done, so I move over to the view section to work on the UI. Starting from the top with the header. When I update a to-do, it should say update to-do and not create to-do. So I define the contents of the header as a formula. Using the if formula, I check if the page parameter mode is create, and if so, I define the true value as the string create new to do and the false value as the string update new to do. Instead of new item, the label task works in both cases, create and update. Preparing for the logic of the app, I drag a button, label it update, and format it like the other buttons. The update button should only be visible during an update. So in the button under advanced properties, I find visible and define it as a formula. Again, I use the isEqual function because that gives me a true or false. The first value is the page parameter mode and the second parameter is the string update. So if mode is update, I get a true and otherwise a false. Just what I want. Same thing for the create button, just that I'm testing for the string create here. Moving on to the logic of the update button. Like for create, I first want to check that the task is not empty. So I create a formula for the condition of the if workflow. IsEmpty is the formula of choice, which gives me a true or false testing the page parameter task. Should task be empty, I display an alert to please enter the task. If task is not empty, we move over to the HTTP request to update a record. Heading over to Firebase, we will get the answers of how to update a record. Here it is, patch. Let's see, the HTTP method is patch. The resource URL is still the same and the path parameter is in the document.name. And since we're sending data, we also need a request body. With that information, I head back over to Appgyver to configure our HTTP request. The document.name information is needed for the relative path. So I head over to the data section, get collection, run a test and look at the name parameter. And indeed, it looks like the relative path which we used before, plus the document ID, which uniquely identifies this very document. Nice that Firebase simply provides that to us. Back over to Appgyver. Now we can configure the URL in the HTTP request using a formula concatenating our resource URL with the .name parameter. The HTTP method is patch and the request body can be copied from the create method. So I head over to the HTTP request and copy the request body. So back to the HTTP request for the update logic and create a formula for the request body and paste in what we just copied. Let's have a look what we actually have here. The task, the string value, is correct with the page variable task. That's our input field. However, the boolean value done isn't always false. It should be our page parameter done, but it is of the type text. So using the isEqual function, we convert it back into a Boolean value. The first parameter is our page parameter done, and the second value is the string true. Now they navigate back and we're done with the logic for the update button. When the page is focused, I want to set the input field to the page parameter task. So I head over to the logic section of the page. On the event page focused, I set the page variable task to the page parameter task. With that saved, I can head over to the list page to add the edit icon. Remember, I have added page parameters to the edit item page. So first I go to the logic of the create new button and add the page parameters. Starting from the top, the done parameter should always be false since it is a new item. So I set it as a static value false. Next is mode. I also set it as a static value create. The parameter name should stay no value since we don't have a relative path yet. So should task since we don't have a task yet. Saving it and heading over to the checkbox field. I double click the checkbox field to get it into isolation mode. Into the cell 2 I drag an icon. The layout of cell 2 should be horizontal, the items spread apart, and vertically centered. The icon should be an edit. The component needs to be converted to a regular container before I can assign the logic to the icon. Oops, that changed the layout of the container. So let me set it back to horizontal. Moving to the logic of the edit button, I want to open page and set the page parameters. The done parameter is the done field of the current record, but it is incompatible. The done field is of the Boolean value and the page parameter done is a text value. So I use a formula to convert. I simply use an if, setting the output to the string true if the Boolean done is true and otherwise false. Next is the page parameter mode. That should be a static text called update. The name parameter is provided by Firebase and contains the document ID, so I just take it from the current record. The parameter task I also find in the current record under task and then string value. Alright, that should be it. So saving it and testing. First is the creation of a new item. The header is looking good. Alright, and the new task is created. Next is the update. The header is looking good, but our task didn't transfer over. That's strange. I might have a hunch why that could be. Let's move over to the open page. This is a workaround that helped me on other apps. Basically, you wrap the parameter into a formula. I select open page and move down to the task parameter. Select it and you see that currently it is bound to a property of a data item in repeat. Now simply press formula and save, and that should do it. Alright, saving the app and testing it in the preview. I click the edit button on new task and it's there. I changed the task very creatively and the update works as well. Very nice. And now we created and updated a task. In the next video we will learn how to handle the checkbox to indicate if a task is done or not. See you there.